Hello, lovely listeners. Kirk here with a blast from the past for you all. Really a double blast from the past. A bonus episode from a couple years back that is itself all about the games that we played when we were kids. Back in September of 2022, the three of us recorded a Max Fun bonus episode all about the games we played when we were younger, the games that formed us. And it was a really fun conversation. We're off this week and we thought we would drop it in the main feed for everyone to hear. And of course, just as a reminder, if you want to hear a bunch more bonus episodes like the one you're about to hear, you can become a Maximum Fun member at MaximumFun.org/join, and doing so will also support TripleClick. We really do appreciate everyone who supports the show. You make it possible for us to keep making it. We've got a bunch of fun bonus episodes planned for the rest of the year. We've got one very cool, very different thing planned that we are currently working on and should be announcing before too long. So yeah, MaximumFun.org/join. Come be a part of it. Okay, hope you enjoy this bonus episode. We'll be back with a normal episode next week.
I'm Jason Schreier.
I'm Kirk Hamilton.
And I'm Maddy Myers.
Hello again, and welcome back to another bonus episode.
Bonus time.
Beans time. Beans talk.
Thank you, all of you out there. If you're listening to this, then thank you for being a member. Thank you for helping make this show possible. We really appreciate it. And to show our appreciation, we are making you a bonus podcast.
That's right.
Look at that. It's just for you.
It's just for you. Specifically for you.
So, for this month's bonus episode, Kirk, Maddy, we are getting nostalgic. We are going back and ripping open our childhoods and mining. We're digging into our childhoods and mining for gold, for memories, memory gold to share with the world.
Mm-hmm. Our personal histories, our biographies,
yes, hope you're ready for
memoirs.
some fracking. Hope you're ready for some memory fracking, some childhood fracking.
This is how you turn your childhood into content.
Yeah.
So this is the exercise, the kind of little game we're going to play today. So each of us have come with 5 formative games from our childhood. Maddy tried to make it like 12 games, but I was like, no,
For
it has
some
to be
reason,
5.
that was considered not, just not allowed. Too many.
No,
too
not
many
part
games.
of the game.
I have the full list here, but I will not reveal it.
No, you're not allowed to read it. No, you can tweet about it.
Okay,
so
great.
Here's the thing about these games, and the criteria for these games are that they're not the greatest games of all time. They're not the best games we've ever played. They're the games that were formative to our childhoods, to us as human beings in some way or another. Maybe we learned something from them. Maybe they had an impact on us in some way, some interesting way. And so we're going to go around and we're each going to pick a game and share. We're each going to share a game one at a time until we each get to 5 and talk about why we picked it for a couple of minutes. So let's get on with it, shall we? You guys have your lists. You have your game names in front of you.
Let's do it.
Okay. Kirk, kick us off. It'll be Kirk, Maddy, Jason.
Okay, so my first game is a Game Boy game from the early 90s, I think from 93. Let me see if I'm right about that. Oh, no, wow, much earlier, 1990. So this is the first game on my list, and I was 10 years old in 1990 when I played this game.
Amazing.
The game is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan.
Okay.
I had this game, and I played it a lot. The sound effects were super good.
So this game was obviously a licensed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. It is, I think, included now in, isn't there a new collection? Yes, there is. I'm seeing it is the Cowabunga collection, which was just released and has, I think, all 18 million of the various Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games that were released between whatever it is, 88 and 92, or, with the absolute peak of Turtle Mania.
Uh-huh.
And this is the one that I played because I only had a Game Boy. So the reason I brought this in and the reason it was formative for me was it's kind of emblematic of a certain type of Game Boy game that I really enjoyed, which was the type of Game Boy game that made me feel like, okay, maybe this isn't the big Nintendo one. This isn't in color, but it's the next best thing. And I'm getting to experience video games in a way that had previously been denied to me. So I've explained before, I've mentioned many times that I wasn't really allowed to have video game consoles when I was a kid. This was just kind of my parents' belief that I would be too into them or they would take too much time or they didn't want me watching TV all the time. And I give them credit for that. I think, as much as I love video games now and
TV
kind of
for that matter. Yeah.
That's true. I've had the last laugh in terms of making video games a major part of my life. Like, it was probably good for me as a kid to not be playing Nintendo on my own TV all the time, even though I played a lot of video games at friends' houses. So they made an exception for the Game Boy. And the deal was, this is also, I think, a common approach, that I got a Game Boy, but my sister also got one. So we each had them. My sister's a couple years older than me, less into video games, but she really liked the Game Boy as well. She liked Tetris. She had a few games she was into. And we both got a Game Boy at the same time. I think I got it for my birthday, but then she also got one for my birthday. Happy birthday to me and you. Apparently.
Amazing.
So I played, when I look back at the games that I played on the Game Boy, did both of you had Game Boys?
Oh yeah,
I'm
I've got some Game Boy games. It's coming up.
Okay.
My rule was I'm only allowed to use a Game Boy while traveling, but I can use it unlimited on planes. So I learned to love plane rides because
Wow. There were no
That makes
restrictions
sense.
on my Game Boy usage at all, which I'm now realizing was a huge freedom for me. But of course, no
You know-
TV. So
There probably was some restriction on my usage, but then I think because it was portable, it was just so easy to play it.
yep.
And so that was kind of my way into video games. Really, for a long time, I didn't have console. I think my first console was an Xbox, an original Xbox that I just bought myself in college in the year 2001. So quite a bit after this. So, anyways, I would play. I think I played the Mario, whatever the first Mario game was.
Mario
that was
Land.
on Game Boy.
Mario Land, yep.
Mario Land, yes,
You
I
get to
played that.
fly in a ship. There's some cool mechanics in
cool.
that game.
Right. So some of those
Submarine.
Nintendo games, those first party Game Boy games are good, but there was a lot of dreck on the Game Boy
Yep.
Yeah.
from third parties. In this case, this was a Konami game, Fall of the Foot Clan. And the thing was, I was obsessed with the Nintendo TMNT game because I was really into Ninja Turtles. When I was 10, I was the exact age that Ninja Turtles were the coolest thing in the world. I read the comics because I had a friend who was my hip comic video game friend who hipped me to all the cool. I saw Akira at his house for the first time, Vampire Hunter D. We saw all the weird anime and stuff. And then he was into the Ninja Turtles, the manga. And so the black and white,
Yeah.
kind of gritty. It's really violent. And,
It is. I read them
kind
as
of
an
badass,
adult.
yeah.
I feel like as a kid, maybe the fact that it was trying to be a parody wasn't as obvious, and it just came
No.
off as completely straight laced.
Right, and because it's kind of R-rated or it's sort of
Yeah.
edgy in that way, it just seemed as a kid, I was oh, well, this is serious. This is serious business. And then, of course, it became more and more silly. I was excited about the live-action movie. Oh, my God, I was so excited. I'll never
movies
forget
are
when I saw a
perfect.
poster.
There were a few of them.
Yeah.
One of them, they were all wearing samurai gear, I remember. Yeah, there was
Yes,
some
Turtles in
fun-
Time. I think they
some
go back
fun,
in time to,
Yeah.
to Japan.
But really, the peak of the series was the Super Nintendo one, which is another Turtles in Time, they're going through
Right.
time. I don't know if
Right.
you ever played that one, but that was
Oh, yeah,
fun.
that was the one that was in arcades as well. That was,
Yes.
And that the newest Shredder's Revenge is kind of fashioned
based on
after
that,
that. That's
yeah.
the beat 'em up. So I was really into the NES one just because I didn't
Yeah,
have
it's
a
more
Nintendo.
of a platformer than a beat 'em up.
It was a platform, and it also had a kind of
and Game Boy was.
top-down section where you're moving through the world and going between manhole covers.
Oh, yes.
And I've never played it. I don't really know what it looks like because I read the entire guide in Nintendo Power, which this is again something we've talked about before. But because
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to have the console, I would
You
get a
know it
Nintendo
well.
Power, or I would buy I think I would find a way to get the walkthrough at the Scholastic Book Fair, and then it was it was basically reading a Let's Play,
Yep.
a guide. So
Just
I had been
imagining that you could play it, cutting out
Right,
the characters and moving
Using
them
my
around on the
imagination.
rug.
And I don't think that game was very good. So I don't, I don't think I was missing much by imagining it. I probably was imagining a better game than it actually would
It
have been
was
if I
hard.
played it.
It was very hard.
Yeah, so was Fall of the Foot Clan. So when I finally got Fall of the Foot Clan, I was so psyched because it was I'm going to play a Ninja Turtles game now. And, it was on my Game Boy, but it still looked pretty cool. My main memory of it is the turtles looked cool. The art was pretty good. And it was brutally difficult. It was so hard. It was just a side-scrolling action game, just like the NES one. But I played it so much. There are a bunch of games like that. The Terminator 2 Game Boy game, these kind of terrible licensed Game Boy games. The Home Alone one I played a whole bunch of. So this is kind of standing in for all of
Yeah,
those
where you had
games.
to set the traps for as you were going through. There were a lot of intruders in your house. It wasn't just two. It was
The Wet Bandits were more of a kind
hundreds.
of gang.
Yeah, it was hundreds in that
Terrifying.
game.
So that's my first pick is Fall of the Foot Clan, the Game Boy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game from 1990.
Maddy, what's your first game?
So mine is also a Game Boy game, 1989, Tetris. I no, we said these weren't the best games of all time. But
Yeah, this counts.
this is one of the
kind
best
of
games
is.
of all time. This was an extremely formative game for me. I had a few games in that category. Like I also had Pac-Man, but I just was never that into Pac-Man. But Tetris was, I mean, it is a video game to me. Like it is the definition of a video game, and it is the metric by which I judge all other video games in terms of music, design, colors, everything else. Is it fun? Can you play it for the rest of your natural life? I mean, I don't know. I just have so many memories of playing Tetris forever and ever and ever, getting frustrated with it. And I've described very gently throwing my Game Boy on the bed in anger, but like your wherewithal is such that you are able to gently throw it on the bed. I remember doing that. If I felt as though Tetris had treated me unfairly and had given me a string of blocks that made no sense for what I had, we've all been there. I also remember I did this with a couple Game Boy games, but I would just put the music on in the morning, like while I was getting dressed for the day. Like I would like just put it on and just have the Game Boy playing a song for the day. Because it's not like it was easy to just listen to any song you wanted in this time period.
Right, there was no YouTube where you could just listen to every version of the Tetris soundtrack from all time.
Right, exactly. Or like every version of whatever song you liked. That wasn't possible. So, I would tape things off the radio on cassette tapes, but also I would just boot up my Game Boy to like a level that I thought had a cool sound or whatever and play the song. And in Tetris, every single song is great. I would change the song and convince myself that changing the song somehow changed my strategy. Like if I was getting sick of Tetris, I would just change the song and then it's like a whole new video game. I don't know. Tetris is freaking incredible. And I still have it on my phone and I still play it sometimes because it's still good.
You should check out the new Tetris, aka Threes, which is the only game that has come close to matching Tetris.
I don't know. Tetris Effect is where I thought you were going to go.
Tetris Effect is amazing. I've got that on Steam Deck now, and I play that all the time.
No, but that's just more Tetris.
Well, but who needs anything else is my take.
I'm just saying, if there's another puzzle game that is like as timeless and perfect as Tetris,
I like Threes. I do like it, but I don't agree. I think Tetris is the go.
Yeah, I don't know. Tetris is pretty special. And it's funny, I played a ton of Tetris on Game Boy as well, just because it came with the Game Boy and I had no money. And I was like, well, I guess this is video games for me. And it is wild to imagine my past self seeing my future self playing Tetris Effect on a Steam Deck at 60 FPS. And it's like exploding lights and colors on this beautiful thing. And I love Tetris Effect. I've actually been playing that recently. It's such a good game.
All right. My first game is a game that you guys probably have not played. I don't think you played this game. It's a game called Zork Zero. Are you guys familiar with this? Are you familiar with Zork?
Only from you.
A few of the Zork games. I definitely played the original Zork. That was almost one of my games.
So the Zork games are, of course, classic interactive fiction from the 70s, 80s. And there was there was a company called Infocom that just made a ton of this interactive text-based
You're
fiction.
standing in front of a White House.
Yes. There's a mailbox.
There's a mailbox.
Yeah. So a ton of those games were I used to play a ton of those games because my mom worked for Scholastic, the kids company, the kids like entertainment company, and she wound up getting like all these games and stuff as part of her work, and she would bring them home and just give them to me, and so I got all these free games. Even as a young child, I was getting free games.
Wow, really? That's just been your life. Huh?
It's pretty crazy, right? That in itself is probably what led to my career. That just getting a ton of like free PC games. But anyway,
they're not free. Wait, you have to pay for them? Yeah, right. How can I hack this?
So she brought home a lot of these Infocom games, and we'd play them together and stuff. But they were always too hard for me, or like I was young and could never really get super far until I got to Zork Zero, which came out in 1988. So I would have been 1 when it came out. So obviously I played it a few years after it came out. But Zork Zero, unlike many of the others, is a comedy game. And so essentially it's a prequel to the Zork series. There are a ton of games in the Zork series, including some more modern ones where it turned into like a graphical game and they added graphics. But at first it was just a text game. Zork Zero was made as kind of like a prequel, like side story that is also a comedy. The Zork games are very serious. This is not. And so it tells the story of like the ancient empire. So Zork takes place in this like ruined empire, and Zork Zero tells the story of like how it was ruined and what led to that. And it actually ends, Kirk, with you are standing in front of a White House. There is a mailbox. Because
Right.
it's a prequel.
Okay. Sure.
But Zork Zero is just like hilarious and weird and quirky and difficult and challenging. And I eventually wound up just playing it by reading through a walkthrough as I played. But I enjoyed every second of it, despite that, because there's so much quirkiness to it. You have to go around this weird world collecting different objects that belong to all these Zork royalty figures. And they're all friggin' weird and dumb and stupid. There's this jester who keeps popping up randomly as you go and will like cast spells on you to like suddenly you'll feel yourself suffocating and you'll realize you have a clown nose on you and you have to remove it, or he'll turn you into like an animal for a couple of turns. There's a card game that you have to play, and the card game is like, it's like Calvin Ball, where the rules are impossible and just made up as they go along, and so you have to find a trick to circumnavigate it. There are a lot of weird little puzzles like that. It's also a game that is like so poorly designed that you can lock yourself out of victory just by doing the wrong thing at any turn.
Classic.
So it is not necessarily a good game, but I just remember loving it as a child and loving all this interaction. It was just like the perfect example of like interactive fiction for me. And I think I always loved like reading and writing, but I think certainly one of the reasons that I wound up wanting to be a writer is because I played so much like of that interactive fiction, including Zork Zero, which was my favorite of the bunch. So that's my first. Kirk, you're up next.
I'm up next. Okay, well, this is another very writerly game with a lot of writing. They're not interactive fiction, and that is from 1992, King's Quest VI, Heir Today, Gone Tomorrow. Have either of you played this game?
No, but I'm very familiar
No,
with them.
but I've played other King's Quest games.
Yeah,
Another
it's an
series.
interesting series. This is the one that I am by far the most familiar with. It's a little bit like it's the Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego of the King's Quest series. I think it's kind of seen as the peak of this series. So this was a series by well, I know Roberta Williams was one of the main writers. She and her husband started Sierra, but I don't know how involved he was. This game was directed by her and also Jane
He
Jensen.
was more of the businessman.
That's kind of what I thought. So she designed this along with Jane Jensen, who then would go on to make Gabriel Knight. So these two women were responsible for kind of a lot of the games that I played in the 90s. And this is one that's always been kind of special to me. I think I played this a little later. I don't think I played this right when it came out. And I think I'd probably played a few other Sierra point-and-click adventure games before it. Something we talked about, I think, in our episode about Monkey Island, on our main feed episode, was the difference between LucasArts and Sierra games, and how in LucasArts games you couldn't die. And that was this really important distinction, because in Sierra games, you could definitely die. And I think my next game is also a Sierra game, so I'll talk about that more there too. But in this game, there's not combat in King's Quest VI. You play like a prince, I think. What's his name? I should know this, but he's basically like exiled and trying to come back and find his way back to the throne. I mean, each King's Quest game is sort of about that. It's very kind of pro-royalty, but in a kind of silly fairy tale kind of way. Like the world of King's Quest mashes up a whole bunch of different fairy tales. So you'll be in Alice in Wonderland 1 minute, and then, I don't know, whatever, some other fairy tale the next minute. And it's all pretty silly. Like, you fight the Minotaur at one point in this game. There's a whole Minotaur maze. And so it's kind of like, it's funny, but it's also kind of melodramatic. Like it has a sort of a dramatic, romantic streak to it. And it's dangerous because you can die, and you can even, I don't know if you can get stuck like fully. You can screw yourself by like not picking up a thing that you needed, but it's definitely got some of that weirdness that adventure games like this had. So the main reason that I want to mention this is because it's tied to one of my fondest memories, which is that I played through this entire game while my grandma watched me when I was probably 13 years old or something, which is so
cute.
That's
it's
adorable.
so cute. And it's not something that I ever really did, but I was really excited about this game. I'd been playing it on like my dad's computer downstairs. And I think I had been just sort of talking about it and telling my grandma, it's all these fairy tales and whatever, it's so cool. You control the guy and you have to solve the puzzles. And so she asked to see it. And I wound up playing through she just kind of hung out. And I played through like many hours of the game. I think maybe most of the game. And I think it was stuff that I hadn't played through as well. And just while she watched me, and it's kind of, this was a while ago, and she died quite a while ago now, maybe in 10 years ago or 15 years ago or something. So like, I don't have that many recent memories of her, but it's just this very strong memory. And it was a funny moment of this nerdy kid being like, look at this game. And I think she really legitimately thought it was cool because it was all of this mythology and these stories that she was familiar with. Mm-hmm. And it was so clever, and the story is charming and funny. So I think she genuinely liked it and wasn't just humoring me. Or at least that's what I tell myself.
Yeah, that's great. She probably liked reading along with the story.
Yeah.
Those games are pretty cool. The main reason I am familiar with them, is from Let's Plays and reading about them. Yeah. So I feel like I've played them just from people talking about what it's like to play them, and they're just as entertaining in that format.
Right. You lose almost nothing by not playing them.
Yeah.
Maddy, you're up next.
Okay, so I've got a second Game Boy game here, and it is Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins from 1992. Right. So this came out when I was 6. I don't know how old I was when I played it. I might have been 6. I remember this game because it was the first game I beat. That might be a false memory. And I was really thinking back, like, have I just told myself this? Or maybe Kirby's Dream Land was the first? I will never know. But I do know that Mario Land was very hard for me, and that Super Mario Land 2, or Mario Land 2, maybe there's no super there, was significantly easier. And it's apparently notorious for this. I was Googling this, and people are like, this is a notoriously easy game. But to young me, I was just like, thank God I can freaking play this, man. Like,
because you get the bunny ears, and
you get the bunny ears. You can fly around, but also the save point system is a little different, and you collect the coins, and that somehow affects how many lives you get or something. I don't remember.
I remember this game. I remember the suit. Okay, I haven't thought about this game in a long time.
I know.
This is really taking me back.
Iconic. Well, the lands are so iconic, and there's the pumpkin land, and then there's the giant Mario. That's the most memorable one, I think. The giant Mario robot.
Yep. Incredible level, incredible stuff. Nice. I just was so excited to beat a video game. And my older sister was better at Mario than I was, which was infuriating to me. She could beat Mario Land, and she started like speed running it on her Game Boy and being like, oh, it's so easy. And I was like, it's really not. And so it was very exciting to me when I beat this, which naturally she was like, I've already beaten that, ages ago. And I was like, whatever. I beat it. I beat a video game. So that was a huge deal for me. Beginning of early competitive Maddy.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
6 golden coins. Yeah.
A great game. Okay, my next one is, I was really debating here between Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy VI, but I feel like the three of us have talked enough about Final Fantasy VI, so I'll stick with Final Fantasy IV. So Final Fantasy IV was known as Final Fantasy II when I played it back in the 90s for the Super Nintendo. And what really struck me about that game when I played it was really the first game I played, at least on consoles, that told a story and had characters who you cared about and did things that no other game did, including like forcing me to read and forcing me to like learn words that I didn't know, like Spoonie. There's an infamous line, "You Spoonie Bart."
Yes.
But yeah, I feel like I learned a lot of reading skills from playing this game because I played it so young, and then it kind of led me, because I had played the first Final Fantasy on the NES. I think I've told you guys this, but like as a kid, I could never get past a certain choke point, and so I just played the first intro area over and over again, and like barely like only would finish it years and years later. But Final Fantasy II, I could actually play through. I don't know how old I was, 6, 7, whatever it was. But it was the first sort of like you, Maddy. It was like an RPG that I could actually finish. And I learned the characters and like would be on the playground with friends who had played it, pretending to be the characters with them. And it was the first game that really stuck with me as like, oh, okay. And of course, it would lead me to review Final Fantasy 15 one day. No, it would stick with me, and I think it was the first time that I was like, I really fell in love with that series and that genre and that type of game where you read and you learn a story, and it's all kind of like manifested in the gameplay. And even today, it still does some super clever things. Like there's a character named Tella, and his whole storyline is that he forgot all of his spells, and he wants to go relearn this one spell so he can kill the big bad guy Galvez. And that's reflected by his magic points, which is that like he learns sorry, backing up a second. So then when he does relearn his spells, there's this one spell, Medio, that is like the ultimate powerful spell, but he knows if he uses it, it will kill him. And that's reflected by his magic points. So you see it in his spell menu the entire time you're playing with him, but you can't use it. It's grayed out. It's like it costs 99 magic points and you only have 90. And then when he uses it during the story cutscene that is also an in-battle scene, and it wipes him out. It's like the magic points were actually his energy, and it wiped him out entirely, and so it kills him as part of the story. And that was a really cool moment. Like, this is the first game I had played where like characters die and don't come back, and like there are plot twists, and like it's a whole elaborate story. There's like the game came included with this manual that walked you through the first few hours of the game, and I thought that would be the entire game, but then no, it ends at like this point where you go to the underground and there's an entire new map, and then you fly to the moon and there's another map. So yeah, it was just mind-blowing for me as a kid playing this game and kind of realizing what games were capable of and the scopes and scales that they could reach. So that's Final Fantasy IV. Nice. Kirk, you're up.
All right, I'm debating which of my two games to do next. I guess I'll keep it on the adventure game in that zone, and say that another very formative game for me among many adventure games I played was Quest for Glory 4 Shadows of Darkness.
Of course.
Jason, you're smiling, so you've played this game?
I have, yeah. It's a classic. Another tough game, but yeah, so many fond memories. I remember always turning into like a werewolf or something and dying. Or
there are a lot of
letting
ways
the
to
werewolf
die in
escape
that
or
game.
something like that.
It's true. You could die a lot of different ways. You could die in all of these games. So this was another Sierra series that, man, I played the first Quest for Glory game. It was like, I was young enough where I just was at Software Etc. or whatever and looking at games and just saw this game called Quest for Glory, and the back of the box, I remember the back of the box saying, groundbreaking visuals, and it was the visual. It was like I think this character you talk to at the first inn is on the back of the box. I could probably find a picture of the back of the box and really take myself back. But anyways, and just being like, groundbreaking visuals, I'm in, and buying it, and then playing it and really liking it. So these games were kind of groundbreaking in some ways. They were
visuals perhaps were
really in some gameplay ways, but also they were kind of nice looking. They had some things that you now see in like Mass Effect or in BioWare games, where you would create a hero in the first game, and then if you beat the game, you could transfer your save file onto a floppy disk and then load it up in the next game in the series, and your same hero would be playable. And the funny thing was, I don't remember the exact like variables between characters, but they all kind of look the same. Like the basic guy in Quest for Glory is just this like white blonde dude with a sword who's just like a very very boring early 90s.
The big difference was the classes. You could be a fighter or a mage or a thief, and then a paladin in 4 eventually. But the thief, I remember, had the coolest stuff because you could go join the Thieves Guild.
Yes. There was a whole thief plotline, and you wanted to play the game multiple times to see all that. But it was just thinking about a game like Mass Effect, where a lot of the appeal is that people put a lot of work into the look of their character, and that look is like really tied to how they envision the character. This is just, you're some guy, and like maybe you're a thief, maybe you're a warrior. But it was still pretty cool that was possible. I think I maybe only did it once, like carried a character over. I usually just started fresh. And a lot of times my friends and I will admit now, because I think the statute of limitations has expired, we would totally take the discs and, give them to one another. Because these games came on like, this one on Quest for Glory 4 came on like 12 floppy disks or something. So my friend would play the game and install it and play it, and then he'd give me the discs. And there's totally like copy protection, and you had to kind of share it around to be able to all play it at the same time. But I have these memories of sort of carrying boxes of floppy disks to my friends' houses and installing them. So the other thing anyways, Quest for Glory 4, it's kind of different than the other ones. It's tonally the same, but the setting is very different. So each setting, I suppose, is kind of different. The first one is kind of traditional, just sort of European fantasy, I guess. This one is a little more Brothers Grimm with kind of some Lovecraft stuff in there too. I was watching some clips just of this game to refresh myself on it, and I'd kind of forgotten that a lot of the plot is about resurrecting this dark god that's going to like unify the spheres or whatever the hell. Like, they get kind of Lovecraftian, which is funny, just because these games are very silly, and they always were. This one in particular, there's a bunny. Is it a Vorpal bunny? Is that what it's called? It's basically the rabbit from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's this like blood-fanged, but it's a tiny little rabbit, and then you have to fight it. There's combat in these games that's pretty terrible. You like click on enemies.
The thing that was always stressful for me was the timer, because it was like on this actual day cycle, and if you spent too much time clicking around, you would lose because you would run out of time to do something, and that always stressed me out as a kid playing it.
Yeah, it was definitely a sort of challenging game on a lot of levels, though kind of experimental. Like, it was, looking back on it now, it's sort of surprising how many sharp edges it had and just how strange it was in a lot of ways. It would actually be probably kind of fun to replay it. So the last thing I will say is that I have this really strong memory of the menu music from this game because it features this keyboard guitar solo. So the music was composed by someone named Aubrey Hodges, who's a composer I'm not familiar with, but there's this very surprisingly convincing fake guitar solo that plays during the credits music. I just listened back to it, and it's like they do some guitar stuff, some bends that are like exactly what you would do on guitar, but it's not a guitar. It's totally this keyboard, which for 1993 was pretty convincing. And that made an impression on me even then. I remember like distinctly thinking, this isn't a guitar, but it sounds like a guitar. How did they do that? And sort of being interested in that. So that's it was kind of a strong memory for me. So that's Quest for Glory 4, Shadows of Darkness.
Oh man, I could talk about that game for a while. Maybe we should.
Do a triple play sometime.
Yeah,
that would be pretty fun. I'd be into it.
Total listens 20.
Total downloads from this episode. You have you are negative subscribers.
Maddy, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to go with a mega blockbuster, the Oregon Trail. So specifically, I want to say the Oregon Trail Deluxe was the version that I want to talk about here, which came out in 92. So I did play the original one at school. That was at school. But this one was the one that my parents bought for our home computer for whatever reason. And I looked it up today, and just looking at this detailed pixel art instantly transported me back in time. And it was like such an intense feeling to look at it and be like, oh my God, I looked at this so much. I didn't have that many games. This was one of the ones that I had. And it was also the game that made me realize that I really liked first-person shooters, although I didn't know what those were yet then. So there was a hunting game in the original Oregon Trail, but in Oregon Trail Deluxe, it was much more like there's a reticle on the screen for your gun, for one thing, and there's like animals that go back and forth, like a big buck hunter situation.
Oh yeah,
and
looking at images of this.
It's a little bit more detailed, basically. Like it's a shooter, and I would challenge myself, and I'd be like, okay, I'm only gonna live off rabbits because they move the fastest, so I'm gonna do an all rabbits run, and
nice.
I just stupid crap like that. And I would try to bring as little food as possible and only survive on my food. And I don't know. I was playing a lot of Oregon Trail, and it wasn't that interesting, but really I was just playing the hunting mini game constantly. And then eventually I learned about shooters, and I was like, oh, there's entire games where you can just click on stuff to shoot at it. That's great, because I didn't know that was a genre. But yeah, I played it a lot. And the other thing I did that I mentioned this in passing, and Nico and Gita made fun of me for it, and so now I'm just going to confess it. I used to name all my wagon mates after my crushes at school to motivate myself.
Everybody
that's
does
what
this. How
I
could
said,
they make
Jason.
fun of you for that?
They were wow, that's so weird, Maddy. And I'm like, no, everyone, come on, everyone did that,
totally
right?
Normal, yeah.
Totally
Every
normal.
single time I played an RPG with a female character, I would name her after
it after your
whoever I was
crush.
crushing on.
I mean,
Of course.
perhaps the weird part was that I would always, of course, have multiple crushes. So, and I would never assume that any of them would actually be interested in me. So it wasn't like I thought there was some type of conflict of interest in terms of them all being in the wagon with me, or like we were all dating. That wasn't the fantasy. The fantasy was just that I would take care of all of them and make sure they all didn't die. And it was very motivating.
Which is basically your job now, is just taking care of everybody, making sure.
Kind of is, yeah, I guess. And hunting every now and then. I have to bring home bunnies to make sure that Dina is well fed, and Polygon. That's all I do now. That's my main thing. So yeah, I played a lot of Oregon Trail Deluxe. A lot.
It really is Big Buck Hunter. I'm looking at these screenshots, and I'd never really made that connection before, but Big Buck Hunter is just what if Oregon Trail hunting game was in an arcade and had a gun.
The difference being that you shoot it. It's a lot more kind of immersive. To
I mean,
shoot
you're
it with an
holding a
actual
gun,
Sure.
usually
Yeah.
in a CD bar, but yeah.
When you're a kid, it's the same difference.
Really,
almost,
Duck
like-
Hunt is the original.
Yes, Duck
version
Hunt,
of all this
also-
stuff.
also one
well,
of the
actually,
greats.
Oregon Trail was before Duck Hunt, but yeah. Okay, my next game is a little old game called Warcraft 2.
Oh my God! I
Wow.
almost flunked French class because of Warcraft 2.
Oh my God, Warcraft 2. So in the 1990s, I played every single game that Blizzard came out with. But I was super young when Warcraft 2 came out. I believe it was 1994, so I would have been 7. And I remember getting it as like pretty much when it came out. But like, as was often the case with me and games like that, games back then, any game back then, I couldn't beat it. It wasn't like I couldn't wrap my head around a lot of stuff. I couldn't figure out how to beat it. It was very complicated, a lot of resource mechanics, et cetera, et cetera. So I would always just use cheat codes. And I got so much satisfaction over just like making myself ultra powerful and blazing through every single mission and just beating it with cheat codes on. And I would go on to do the same with StarCraft when that came out, with Diablo 1 when that came out. Diablo 2 was the first Blizzard game that I like played for real and spent many hundreds of hours playing. But Warcraft 2 was really my first. I played a little bit of Warcraft 1, but never really got into it. Warcraft 2 was the first game that like turned me into like a Blizzard fan back then, and got me to the point where I was like, I have to play everything this company comes up with because I was obsessed with it. My goodness, the way it looked, the way it sounded, the way it felt to play, the way that like if you clicked on a character multiple times, they would like get pissed off and yell at you, like the little charm, even though it was like the serious story, there was all this weird charm, like the orcs going orc, orc, and like the weird sounds and noises and the music.
Zork.
And man, everything about it was just fantastic. I loved the ogres, the way that the ogres would just like yell at each other. The two heads would yell at each other if you clicked them enough times.
Yeah, that was such an early experience with game addiction for me. That's probably the first video game I got addicted to. Really, like, I really was like not studying for a French final. I remember it very vividly because I was in high school and just playing. And I was like, I just would rather do this than study for French.
Yep.
And then
it
I
was
wound up doing
also
very
so.
badly
This is
in
the key
French.
to Blizzard's success. It was also one of the first games that you could actually log in and play against other people, and it worked pretty
Right.
well. And you could just play against your buddies, or you could play against random people. It was a seamless experience. And then obviously they would like make that even better, improve that over time. And StarCraft was really the game that I spent just like playing endless stuff, like custom games with other people and stuff like that. Oh my God, the custom games in StarCraft, the original MOBA Aeon of Strife, I used to play all the time in StarCraft in the late 90s. But yeah, Warcraft 2 really set it all in motion. And of course was Warcraft was successful for Blizzard, but not like Warcraft 2 was what made Blizzard back then. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Kirk, you're up next.
All right, well, this is a game that I wanted to like and then realized that I didn't like. And I think that's an important
It is,
moment when you
yeah.
first have a game that you really think is just has to be good.
Excellent.
And then you realize that you just don't like it. And that is The Seventh Guest.
Oh man,
Do you know this game, Jason?
I didn't play it, but I know it. Yeah, I know.
You know of it. Maddie, do you know The Seventh Guest?
I've heard of it.
So this was a full motion video game. It originally came out in 1993, so I was 13. It's on CD-ROM, and it was really hyped when it came out. It was developed by Trilobite, which even seeing that name really takes me back. And the whole thing was that there were actors kind of superimposed onto a video game scene. So it wasn't live. It wasn't full motion video like it's actors on a real set. It was like actors moving through a video game. And man, it was so cool looking. It was so exciting because it felt like this was the kind of the age of full motion video, because so shortly after this is when Gabriel Knight 2 would be full motion video. Roberta Williams would go on to make Phantasmagoria, that very misbegotten game that is full motion video. And there's kind of this whole weird era of full motion video games that I'm sure a lot of people know about. This was kind of the beginning of that. And the belief was, well, yeah, I mean, that this is where we're going, right? Obviously, like video games are just going to become interactive movies. And it's actually really interesting to think about this game in the context of Immortality.
Yeah.
Which really
Or all of Sam
has
Barlow's
some
games,
sort of
really.
similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah, though Immortality has the kind of haunting quality, like where the person that you are, like, is, the thing you learn by your own unique vantage point winds up being part of the story, which was true in The Seventh Guest as well. This is like a haunted house game where This guy killed a bunch of people. Became a really successful toy maker, but he was always kind of evil. And then a bunch of kids die, and he becomes a recluse and goes back to his house. And then you go there, and it's the ghosts of these people that he invites, these 6 guests who each have their own stories. A little bit like Clue, or, I don't know, pick your famous Hitchcock or Agatha Christie story. And then they all turn on one another, and they get killed by traps in the house, or they kill one another. And you kind of just go through and solve all the puzzles that they're trying to solve to see this stuff all happen. I finally watched the ending of this on YouTube, but I never finished this game, and I never even really liked it because I think I was a little too young. It's kind of an adult story in a certain way, which isn't a knock against it exactly, but I wasn't that into this story. It's kind of hammy, but it is a lot of adults doing kind of adult stuff. Like it has a lot of sort of that. It feels a little like BioShock if you want to pick a more recent game that has a similar energy. And then the puzzles are really hard. Like that was the other thing. Is just as a kid, I liked solving puzzles and I liked adventure game puzzles, but these puzzles they were just more sort of abstract and more like really challenging, just, grid puzzles or word puzzles that they were very restricted. They showed you a thing and then you had to figure out what to do. There may be exceptions to that, but mostly it was like you're looking at the puzzle and you're solving it. Kind of like Myst, if you want to compare it to another very successful game. Where I really liked puzzles more like in Monkey Island, where you're walking around, you're picking up things, and then you think, oh yeah, I got that thing and I kind of need something here. So I can use that chicken as a pulley to get across this rope or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it's going to be.
I'm totally with you. Hated Myst. Loved those types of puzzles.
Right. So it was kind of a moment for me to realize, I'm excited by how this looks, and I think this is cool because I'm into the technology, but I just don't really like this game, and I don't like playing it. And I really kind of hit my head against it for a while until I finally just stopped because I wasn't having fun. So I think that was kind of an important moment for me.
Fun fact, Seventh Guest, I believe the designer of that game was Graham Devine, who I spoke to for my first book, because he went on to work on Halo Wars and do a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, it is. I was wondering if any of the people who worked on on that game had gone on to do things. That's cool.
Maddy, you're up next. What's your 4th?
Mine is Myst. Gotta have Myst on my list. I know
there we go.
You guys aren't as into it, but I loved Myst. I was so into Myst. My whole family played Myst, which was a huge deal for me at the time. Like the idea
it was like
that
the
my
most successful
parents
game, right?
would play
so
a computer
huge.
game was so weird and like fascinating to me. And I also think I was too young to really understand it. And I don't even think Myst is that complicated, but it's just complicated enough. So I would have been 7 when it came out. I don't know if I played it right then, but I might have. And we had the strategy guide, which was really helpful for the puzzles, which, like Kirk said, it can be very difficult and opaque. And sometimes you're just... So it's kind of first person, but really you're just like scrolling through a series of what looked like crappy Polaroid pictures and like a tiny on your crappy Macintosh computer or whatever we had. It didn't look good. I also remember thinking most of the characters were Black characters because of how poor the rendering was. And then like much later in life, I was like, oh, I thought the Atris family was like all Black actors who were cast. No, it's just really hard to see them.
You were like, wow, who said, why do people think diversity is a problem?
Yeah, I was like, what about all the
successful games of all time?
Literally did Google that like pretty early on in my games writing career. I was like, but what about all the characters in Myst? And then I was like, oh no, I just had like a really crappy monitor. That's interesting. Cool. Anywho, the main twist of Myst, which I guess I can spoil in case anyone somehow hasn't played Myst and still wants to, go for it. It's kind of a pain in the butt to play. So there's these 2 brothers, and they're trapped in these mystical books. And you yourself are also trapped in a book. You enter the world of Myst by being transported into a book. So there's books within books. Christopher Nolan would love it. So you're talking to these 2 brothers who are each trapped in a book. And they're both not trustworthy. Like one of them kind of has an anger problem, and the other one is sort of like he's really smarmy and he's always sucking up to you, but he also doesn't seem trustworthy. So they're both antagonists. And as a kid, I was like, wow, I really don't trust either of these guys. And I got to the end, like you collect all the pages, and I remember choosing one, and he kills you if you complete his quest. And he's like, haha, now you're going to be trapped in the book because you completed my quest. And I was like, okay, did that wrong. Let me reload that. Let me try the other brother. And then I also died. And I was like so confused by that. I was like, how is there no ending to this game? Like, what the hell? Like, what's happening here? And I was like flummoxed by the idea that there could be 2 different bad endings and that I had chosen both of them. And I was like, well, what am I even supposed to do? I don't even get what this game is then. And
That's
my sister, of course, had already beaten the game. Classic. And she was
Sister's
like,
the worst.
just the worst. And she was like, God, you dummy.
Such
No,
a sister.
she was very kind and caring, even though my competitive spirit was like, I can't believe she's already beaten this. But she was like, well, so the 2 brothers told you not to trust their dad, but you shouldn't trust either of them, right? So maybe you should try talking to their dad. And I was like, but I've been told not to talk to their dad for the whole game. That's what they told me not to do. And I was like, just my mind was blown by that. That was the real way that you win, was to do what the 2 characters had been telling you to never do. Like, especially as a child, I feel like the idea that a game character could lie to you was like crazy to me. I was like, what, they could just lie? Like, that's nuts. Like, the game's supposed to tell you where to go. It blew my mind. And it still kind of does. I still think Myst is pretty iconic, honestly. Pretty good ending.
Oh, man. I mean, I remember it was the biggest game in the whole world.
Yeah.
And I did kind of feel pushed away by the puzzles, but the atmosphere was so remarkable in that game. Like, it just still has that weird, lonely sort of vibe. There's not really another game that feels like
it's cool. It's weird, and it feels almost kind of scary at points because you're like, I'm all alone. Like, what is happening? And nothing ever jumps out at you, but it always kind of feels like maybe it could.
Yeah, I never got as far as the story because I was always just like turned off by all the levers and things to rotate and shit like that. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Whereas I was like, I am exactly like Leonardo da Vinci. I love puzzles. I love this shit. Give me a lever. I'll rotate that. I'll play a little piano ditty and like unlock something. Great.
Nice.
I really love the rune games now, and those are a lot like Myst. I feel like I would maybe like Myst now if I went.
Maybe, I don't know. It's pretty tedious.
Well, and they made there's that sequel, whatever it's called.
Riven,
that spiritual successor.
Yeah, I never beat that.
Well,
that
there's
was way
another
too
more
hard.
recent one.
Well, more recently, Abduction is the more recent.
Yeah, that's it. Abduction.
All right, my game is kind of along the same theme as yours, Kirk, in that it is a game I hated. So my game is a little game called Evergrace. Evergrace is developed by a little company named From Software, of all people. Okay, so From Software pre-Miyazaki was a very different type of company. Anyway, so here's the context. Let me set the scene. It is 2000. I grew up playing Nintendo systems and then switched to PlayStation because Final Fantasy switched to PlayStation, and like many kids, I was going where Final Fantasy went. And then I wanted a PlayStation 2 because Final Fantasy X was going to be on PlayStation 2, and I had
Because
to,
it was twice as good as the original PlayStation.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Obviously.
twice as good. So cut to 2000. I remember it was like I asked my parents for a PlayStation 2 for my birthday because it was like coming out later that year, and they were like, "This is $300. Are you kidding me?" I was like, "What if it's like also my bar mitzvah present? What if it's combined with? What if it's also Hanukkah? What if it's like all these? I want to cash in.
I'll never
I want to
ask
take it
for
in advance.
anything again.
I'm
I
gonna take it in
promise.
advance on presents." Anyway. They were very generous, got me a PS2 in October or November, whenever it came out that year. And like many consoles, the launch lineup for the PlayStation 2 was not very robust. But I told my parents, and they knew that I liked role-playing games. That was pretty much all I played. So they got me the 2 role-playing games that came out alongside the PS2. And those were both by From Software. One was called Eternal Ring. The other was called Evergrace. And so the reason that Evergrace was formative was because it was the first game I played, and I was like, wow, this is terrible. I never want to play this again. Because when you're growing up, when I was growing up, I played a lot of bad games. The NES had a ton of crap shovelware. Game Boy did too, as you mentioned, Kirk, before. There was a lot of bad stuff that I played. But like when you're a kid, you don't realize it's bad.
Right.
You just kind of play it, and you're like, you know what? I have it. I'm just going to play
It's
it.
a
Especially
video
when you
game.
don't have that many games. Yeah, you don't have that many games. You're just going to keep playing it. Maybe you'll stop playing it, but you'll assume it's because of you and not because of the game. Like you don't have the critical thinking skills necessary to be like, oh, this is a bad piece of art. But at 13, I was old enough to recognize, like, wow, this is bad. And so Evergrace is a formative experience because it was my first game that I got, and I was like, wow, this is really shitty. I don't want to play this anymore. I can't believe that my parents spent money on this thing.
Wow.
And so my PS2 sat around like unused for a long time until I think Final Fantasy X came out, or some other like RPG that was actually decent came out, and I could play that on there. And I went back to the PS1, and I don't know if my parents actually knew that this PS2 was that I had begged them for, that they spent a lot of money on, was just like sitting around collecting dust. But I hope they never found out, because it was very, very sad experience. So yeah, sometimes the formative games are the ones that teach you that there are bad games in this world that you should not play.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia entry for this, and it says, gameplay. Evergrace features two main characters, Darius the Swordsman and Charlene the Homemaker, with two distinctly different storylines and different battle techniques.
I don't think I played that much. I definitely didn't play enough to remember that.
You didn't meet Charlene the Homemaker?
Charlene the Homemaker, wow.
I wonder what that involved. Like, you got to make cupcakes in time for the school board meeting. Like, what is the gameplay of
This is a From Software game. Like, today in Elden Ring, you would find an NPC named Charlene the Homemaker, and she would be the hardest boss in the game. Like, so like it does the
That's true. We can't read too much. We can't read too much from a name. That's
It's true.
Just
It's true.
Reading Wikipedia out of context isn't totally fair.
But yeah, Evergrace is a bad game. Anyway, let's get to our final selections.
Final
Kirk,
picks.
you're up first.
All right, mine is not a video game. It's a card game. A card game called Magic the Gathering.
Of course.
I played kind of a lot of Magic the Gathering when I was in middle school. So this game, I believe, came out in 1993. And I was probably playing it in 1994, which I wouldn't have guessed when I was playing it that it had come out as recently as it had. But because it just seemed kind of established. And I wish I could remember hearing about this game, or sort of, what it was, like who it was who told me about it and how they described it to me to get me into it. But at some point, a group of friends and I, after school, we would take I grew up in Bloomington, Indiana. We would take the local city bus after middle school. There was a bus stop right by our school, and we would go down and get on the bus, and we would go downtown. And downtown in Bloomington, Indiana, that's like Kirkwood, which is the street that's the kind of main drag for Indiana University, which is in Bloomington.
Did you spend a lot of time on Kirkwood?
I would, wouldn't I?
Beautiful.
There's a lot of stuff there. That's where the library is. Where just sort of places you can go hang out if you're, still kind of a kid, but you're in middle school and you want to go have some fun. So I would go to the library, to the Monroe County Public Library on Kirkwood and Bloomington. And I know that at least 3 people listening to this are probably very excited to hear me calling out these places. So at the library, I don't know, we would kind of just go there and hang out. And then at some point we met up, we started hanging out with these older kids who would play Magic the Gathering. And I don't remember who any of them really were. They were kind of like older nerds from the high school that I would eventually go to. And we were younger nerds who were going to go to that high school. And I wound up in this just sort of rotating group where there was a little area in the library, and everyone would bring their decks and people would just play. And it would kind of be, it wasn't like, I don't think we ever did a tournament, but it was kind of, I got next, people rotating around. And it was really fun. It's the only time I've ever done something like that with like a competitive game, or certainly a card game. I tried to get into the unfortunately named Jihad, which was the game based on Vampire the Masquerade, which is also a card game and a role-playing game I'd played some of. But I was never really that into it. But I got pretty into Magic the Gathering. I had a black deck. That was my sort of element. That's where I used the swamps to get power. And I had a card called the Nightmare, which is a card that scales in power with how many swamps you have in play. I wonder if the Nightmare still exists. It was ludicrously overpowered, at least in my deck, and I had like 3 of them. And so it was the kind of thing where I would just play until I could bring out my Nightmares, and I would be playing all these swamps, and then I'd play them, and they'd just, be whatever, like a 9/9 monster or something, and I would just destroy my opponents. But I wasn't actually good. I just kind of had that one cheesy strategy that worked on some of my friends. But I think when I would play the high school kids who had, good decks and knew what they were doing, they would just mop the floor with me.
Did you ever play the computer game, the Magic computer game?
A
like
little
the 96 one.
I played the one that they came out with a version that was on iPad, and I played a little bit of that. And I guess I played Ascension, which is very similar. And then since then, I've played so many digital card games that are all inspired in some way. But no, I haven't I haven't really.
Well, the one in 1997 was special because that was one where there was like this world and a story, and you go around, and you kill creatures and take their cars and stuff. It wasn't just like a translation of the card game. It was the card game was gameplay for this bigger.
So sort of like
thing.
the Witcher Gwent game where there's like a story.
Exactly, but that game. Just a fun little tangent here. There's a character in that game named Tutorial Witch, and you will not believe who the actress is who plays Tutorial Witch. Are you ready?
Meryl Streep.
Maddie, any guesses?
Jennifer Hale. I don't know.
Ray Seahorn. Kim Wexler herself is Tutorial
Oh
Witch.
man, amazing.
The Magic the Gathering.
God, I love
game.
like early career casting like that. That's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a cool thing about Magic the Gathering was that the art was so fantastic, and it really like even the names of the cards, it really implied a whole world without needing to flesh it out with lore, but it did really capture my imagination. I remember the Force of Nature. That was, I think I maybe did a green-black deck sometimes because I had some good green cards. That was a powerful green card. It looked kind of like Swamp Thing, and it was just called Force of Nature, and it was like, ooh, what's that? So lots of things like that.
Do you remember Sarah Angel? That was always one of my go-tos.
Yeah, oh man, that's right. Sarah Angel, that was a white card, right?
It was like, just a beefy, like a 5/5 flying creature that was just
and then, was it called Black Orpheus? Was that the name of the card?
Which
no, it wasn't. Black Orpheus is a jazz standard.
Black Lotus, is that what you're thinking of?
It's
Black
Black
Lotus.
Black Lotus. I had a friend who had a Black Lotus.
No way. They're worth so much money.
Yeah, they are.
I bet now it's worth even more. It was worth a lot even then, and the game was pretty new.
Yeah, even back then, because it was banned. They had this like collection. They were like, the computer game used this well. They had the banned cards were in the computer game, but they were as like legendary cards, so there was only one would exist in the whole world, like that sort of thing.
That's fun.
Right.
It was cool. Yeah, it was a cool game. The computer game also had cards that would not be possible in the real world because they used like random numbers, so it created a couple of cards that would be possible only in that. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm reading, and Black Lotus is the single most valuable normally printed card in the game of Magic, printed in a standard set.
Yeah, because it was banned. They stopped producing them, so that's why. Because it was too
There's
powerful.
a finite
it was
number of them.
0. You put it down for
Right.
free, and you sacrifice it, and you get 3 mana. It was like you could destroy anybody if you got that in your opening hand.
It was like a way to kill, to like do a Zerg rush kind of thing at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just reading a little more here. This is via the Magic the Gathering wiki. Sorry, but in 2019, a 9.5 grade mint version Alpha Black Lotus sold for $166,100.
Great.
And oh my God, wait. And in 2021, a mint 10 grade sold for $511,000. This is making me wonder
I hope
if
your
my
buddy
friend.
still
Yeah,
has
you
it.
gotta
should
find out.
ask him
I'm
for
still
it.
in touch with him. I'm going to ask him because it could be he had a fake one or something like that. This was a long time ago. I think he had a real one though. Man, I'm going to have to ask him if he hung on to that because wow.
If I remember correctly, it was always tough to tell if something was fake or real.
Right, and
Magic
there were
cards.
definitely forged Black Lotuses out
Yeah,
there for
yeah.
sure. 511,000. I could buy a house for that.
Yeah. Wow.
Like a pretty nice house. Goodness
Did
gracious.
you ever play Hearthstone, Kirk?
Yeah, I really liked it. I didn't get super
I did
into
too.
it, but yeah, it's
I
great.
liked it too. It's fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt like a worthy successor in some ways.
For
to
sure.
Magic. All right, Maddie, what's your final game?
My final game is Doom. I really stuck with elementary school for all my
I'm
picks,
glad somebody
by
picked
the
it
way.
then.
Nice.
I feel like if I'd gone all the way up to 13.
I can't believe you didn't pick Street Fighter.
Well, see, that's
or
what I was
Super
going to
Metroid.
say because I didn't play those till later in life for one. But the other thing, I didn't start playing fighting games and Counter-Strike until 13 and up, and I didn't go that high up in my age here. Doom was like the first violent adult game that I played, and I played it at a friend's house on his dad's computer, and we weren't supposed to be playing it, but he had already secretly played all of it and was like, all right, we're gonna do this, I'm gonna show you this whole game. And we played it, and I don't know, his dad wasn't home and his mom always just kind of let us do whatever we were gonna do. I think she got very tired of us times. We could be very loud, but yeah, I remember that game was like the first serious shooter I had ever seen, I think. post Oregon Trail Deluxe years, of course, where I was like, oh, you can just shoot at guys with a gun? That's so cool. I don't know what was wrong with my brain that I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
I mean, I thought Doom was the coolest thing ever. I think a lot of people thought Doom was the coolest thing ever. It kind of was.
And it was also a little scary. I mean, like, not in like a horror jump out way, but like a illicit, violent way, in the way that like Mortal Kombat kind of was. And it was
the
like,
satanic stuff.
The satanic panic.
There's like pentagrams
not
everywhere.
Too far behind us. And like, you know, people were still like, oh, are video games a little bit dangerous and like adult? Like that was, it was prime that time period. So I have good memories of playing Doom and being like, ooh, this is like a whole new world I'm entering into. And then, you know, it's just all downhill from there.
Doom holds up. I was
pretty
playing that
great.
game recently. It's still really fun. I would sneak up at like 5 a.m. before school to play Doom on my dad's laptop, and then I would erase it so that he didn't know that I was playing it.
Nice.
I think I've told this story on the show before. I
so.
need
It's
to ask
still
my
great,
parents
though.
if they knew that I
I am
was doing
sure
it. I haven't
Aaron's
asked them.
dad knew, and I'm sure he
Yeah.
did not care. Like, I think he probably was like, they're having a good time. You know, there's nothing that bad in there.
Right. Part of the whole parenting thing is deciding what to let slide, and
Yeah.
I imagine it's like,
It's fine.
not such a big deal.
Okay, my final game is an online game. It is a MUD, a multi-user dungeon dimension.
Right, I know you
whatever
played
you want to
these.
call it, called AVP MUD. So, like many millennials, I think pretty much everyone who grew up during the internet age wound up finding like an internet home, so to speak, the place where they spend the most of their time, whether it was like Neopets forums or AOL message board chat rooms or whatever, or live chat rooms or whatever, or websites like GameFAQs. A lot of people are on the GameFAQs message boards, fanfiction.net. but usually it was someplace where you could communicate with other people, not just like post your own things, like a forum of some sort. This was the pre-Twitter, Facebook days. So nowadays, Twitter or Facebook is everyone's home, but internet home. But this was a different time, or Discord or whatever.
So when you say
my internet
AVP,
home-
I have an immediate association with those letters that I believe is the correct association, but
It
I
is
want
the
to hear
correct
about
Aliens
this.
versus Predator. Remember the other day? Remember a few weeks ago you were talking about Prey, and I was like, I have a lot of Predator lore because of this MUD I
know all
used
the
to play.
stories.
Because I used to play as a Predator. So basically, so a
man.
MUD, for
Wow.
people who aren't familiar, is essentially a proto MMO. Before there were MMOs, there were MUDs. MUDs are text-based MMOs. So instead of like clicking, instead of having a graphical interface, you just have text and you just read, and it'll say you are standing in front of a White House or whatever. You are standing here in this place, and there are people who ran these things. They would be coders and builders, and they would write descriptions of each room you would come across. And so you get to this room, and it's written by someone who runs the game. And so a friend of mine got me into this AVP MUD, and I started playing it, and it became my internet home. I became friends with people on there. I started. It's a PvP MUD, so it's very competitive, and you go around and like you level up, and then you try to fight each other. And it was the perfect size, because it was like big enough that there were always a few players online, but it was small enough that like you could really get to know a lot of the people who you played with. And then over the course of like the next 5-6 years, basically throughout all of high school, like 8th grade to college, all I did was play MUDs. Like that was my leisure time.
man.
That was my social life, to the point where like I got a girlfriend to play a MUD with me. So I started off just as a player, wound up like becoming a staff member and like working on the game. I have this
Incredible.
Sure.
I have this vivid memory of the first time that I got like quote unquote promoted to staff member and like getting to use these
Unpaid,
tools,
I assume.
These of course unpaid. It was all free. This thing was totally free. Like no one was making money. Well, some people were making money off MUDs, but not the one I played. The one I played was totally free, no microtransactions or anything. Although microtransactions really started in the MUD days in various forms. But anyway, so I would play with it. I have this vivid memory of the first time that I got like a behind the scenes glimpse, and I could like move rooms around and control things. I was like, oh my God, so much power. And yeah, this is like essentially my internet. I created my own MUD. You guys will not be surprised to hear that I made a MUD based on Suikoden, and it was set in the world of Suikoden, and people could like play with each other in this world.
Holy shit! Does this still exist somewhere?
Are there going to
I
be
have the
people
code.
who write in and are like, I played Jason's Suikoden MUD? mud, and I am only now
I would
learning that
love
that
to hear from
happens.
those people.
Because that would be wild.
I don't think so. It wasn't that popular. Like we had we had a
So
few people. but it
two
wasn't
people
like,
total played it, and Jason knows both of
It
them.
could be that popular.
It could, yeah, it could. It's possible. I have the code on my desktop. You need to like have
my
a unique
God.
server that you pay for in order to get it running, and it's a bit of a process.
I'm gonna guess we can make this happen within seconds, like by
Sure, yeah.
merely
You
going
just
to
have
the
to pay
triple
for
click
it.
Discord and asking one.
I really want to
question.
play Jason's Sweet Code in Mud.
I doubt it. I don't think that many people played it because like
No, I mean I am sure somebody has a Unix server that we could put it on if we wanted to run.
Sure,
it.
I wouldn't even know where to start. I barely remember, but I did learn how to code. I did learn how to program just so I could do this. I had like at one point when I was like 12, I had like a fake like an internet girlfriend. I still don't even to this day I don't even know if it was a real woman or if it was like a catfish.
It probably was a real
like
person.
an internet crush, like a crush in a mud.
Right,
like this
right.
became my life. This is the like I got into WoW for a bit, but I never really got into any MMOs like hardcore. This was my like version of that. I remember going on vacation to like a foreign country with my family and like finding an internet cafe and just being like, just
like,
park
I
me
gotta
here.
play my
Just
mud.
park me here. I gotta check in because I would tell people like, hey, I'm gone for a week. Like, don't in case you're wondering, I'm going away for a week. You would have clans and like guilds and stuff. You would all hang out together. To this day, I mean, there are still a couple people I'm like semi in touch with who I played muds with back in the day, and we would like we were staffed together. And the guy who ran AVP Mud, I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he works for Blizzard now. So he wound up becoming like a programmer in the video game industry. I haven't talked to him in a very long time. But yeah, that was my internet social life for a very long time. It was like this text-based game. So yes, Kirk, aliens and predators. If you played as an alien,
Amazing.
you like started off as a face hugger and then became a chest burster and then like evolved your way up.
That's perfect.
Hell yeah.
You could be a marine and you could hang out on the.
Who would want to be
What's
a
the
Why
name
would
of
you
the-
do that? The
That was
Nostromo or
fun
whatever.
because you
it's
got
called?
you hung out of the Nostromo. Yep.
Is that what it's called?
Sure.
Because you could get like plasma rifles and like cool weapons as a marine.
Who cares?
But I was
you want to
always-
be an
I was-
alien? Come on.
I was
Or
always a predator. If you're a predator, you start off in like these hunting grounds as a Yautja, and you can speak the Yautja language and get like
gotta learn.
you can
Cool as
you can
hell.
turn invisible and stalk
course.
people. Because remember, so this is a PvP mud, so you're fighting against the other races, and so there would be times when like someone would be like war in such and such, and everyone would go to that zone and like take each other on and fight each other, and.
Man.
It taught me how to type very fast because the only way to play was to type very fast.
Did you ever play the PvP Alien versus Predator game where you could play as either of the three? It was pretty
No,
cool.
It would not be. It would not. If it's not text based, I'm not.
Oh no, I mean I'm not at all saying that it was. I'm sure it's not as cool as the mud, but it was. I remember it being a surprisingly cool game where it was a super like asymmetrical game where you could be a marine running around with a gun, or you're an alien like climbing the walls, and the camera went all fisheye and crazy, and then you're a predator with night vision like stomping around blowing stuff up. It was at least a cool concept. I don't know how it would hold up now, but it was a
So
neat idea.
one of the most fun things back then was again becoming staff and like creating stuff and then learning how to code some basic stuff through that. And basically my introduction to the world of coding, which I'm sure is how a lot of people do this, was just like reading someone else's code and just copying, like figuring out, okay, this is
Sure.
what I want to do. I'm just gonna copy what this person did here and then take from here and then
like
take
how
from
I learned
here.
HTML.
Yeah, from what I
Exactly,
understand, that's
exactly.
how everybody codes.
Exactly. No, it was so.
That's
it
what I
was
hear
so cool.
anyway.
There was nothing more satisfying as like a teenager than like someone requesting something of me in like one of the muds I ran, whether it was Sweet Code in, I had like a Diablo mud at some point, and me being like, okay, let me figure out if I can make this happen, and like learning the code for it
Nice.
and then injecting it into the system and like being like, okay, it works now. I remember building like a whole combat system for Sweet Code in mud. I remember playing around with a turn-based system at one point, which did not work super well. But anyway, yeah, I had some addicted players, which was cool. Watching people be like addicted to the game that I created was a fun experience.
Game developer Jason.
Also kind of got all of any sort of game design instincts I might have had, got all that out as a teenager.
Right.
I had zero interest in ever designing a game. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was my AVP mud was the place to be back then. Yeah, if anyone if any triple click listeners have played AVP mud, let me know. probably, I doubt anyone has played Suikoden Mud, but if by some chance you have, I remember creating like an ASCII world map where it was like a map that was like through like letters, like asterisks and other just various like @ signs and hashtags and stuff like that.
Great.
Yeah, it was fun times.
That's amazing. I've learned so much about you two. This was fun.
Yeah, those are our formative experiences.
Yeah, that was 15 good games there. Well, some of them weren't good, I guess.
Some of them don't hold up at all, but they made us who we are today.
They did, it's true.
So should we before we wrap, let's all just like list our games real quick so people have a reference point. Kirk, you start. Just do your 5.
Sure, I'll go first, and I'll put these in the show notes as well. So my games were Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Fall of the Foot Clan for the Game Boy, King's Quest VI: Air Today, Gone Tomorrow for the PC. At least I played it on PC. The Seventh Guest for CD-ROM PC. Quest for Glory 4: Shadows of Darkness, also on PC, and Magic the Gathering, a card game that you play IRL.
Cool. So mine are Tetris for the Game Boy, Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins, Oregon Trail Deluxe for PC, Myst for PC, and Doom for PC.
Nice.
Mine are Zork Zero, Final Fantasy IV, Warcraft 2, Evergrace, the one and only Evergrace,
yes.
and AVP Mud. Cool. Well, that has been it for this month's bonus episode.
Yeah,
Once again,
fun.
thank you to all of you for being supporters of our little old show.
Thanks.
And we will see you all next time.
Yeah, see you next time.
Bye.
Triple Click is produced by Jason Schreier, Maddy Myers, and me, Kirk Hamilton. I edit and mix the show and also wrote our theme music. Our show art is by Tom DJ. Some of the games and products we talked about on this episode may have been sent to us for free for review consideration. You can find a link to our ethics policy in the show notes. Triple Click is a proud member of the Maximum Fun Podcast Network, and if you're listening to this bonus episode, it means you're already a member, so thank you. We really appreciate your support. Find us on Twitter at TripleClickPod, send email to tripleclick@MaximumFun.org, and find a link to our Discord in the show notes. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.
Jason's frozen.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's just not moving.
I was just not moving. Yeah, it's just not moving.
We need to know. You need to send us proof of life.
No, he's just being still.
That's weird. Why don't people do that more where they like pretend to be like,
We need to know.
but then they're
you're
not
all-
frozen. They're just pretending.
It's terrifying.
Right. Oh my gosh. I bet you that human statues do that to fuck with their coworkers.
It's like human statue skills on Zoom. See, that's remote work. Am I right, guys?
How is that not an SNL sketch?
You should send this to
Oh my
SNL.
God.
It's like the stupidest sketch idea ever. Just like
It would have been
a
a
human
perfect,
statue
like-
meeting on Zoom, and like all of them keep freezing. How is that not
Right. It would have been
it's
right
like
early when they're all on Zoom. Oh my
Just
God.
terrible, like early
Maybe that
COVID
was a
sketch where it's
sketch.
like the human statues are going on Zoom too.
Let's just say it was.
Let's just say it was.
Oh, Jason like really froze now.
Wait, hold on.
Jason,
Yeah,
you just
living
froze
in-
I
again.
just froze
Hell.
for real.
What is real? What is fake?
Yes.
Hold on, I'm gonna switch around a little bit. Give me one sec.
Remote podcasting.